Wow, the story's totally left my head. Okay, so I can't remember the exact story, but something like this. I can't remember.
I was like, is it silent? Is it supposed to be one of
No.
those tricky?
No, it's like the guy is like, when I get to heaven, I think that Peter won't. This is it. When I get to heaven, I think that Peter won't ask me, Reverend John, why weren't you more like Moses? He's not going to ask me that. He's going to say, Reverend John, why weren't you more like Reverend John?
That's actually really
don't try to
good.
be somebody else. Don't try to be Moses.
I never try to be, but
There you go.
that's actually one of the reasons too why I don't do music, because industry. Like I have a really competitive personality, so if I want to be known and heard by this typical certain audience, I'm going to do music that they want to hear. You know what I mean? And I want to do music that I want to hear, but it doesn't give me a lot of fan base, so that's why I'm just like I'm not ready for it until I can.
I'm not try talking about it.
But I mean,
What's up?
You actually reminded me, like, this actually touched on your biography, because I was reading your biography, and you're writing about why you write. So I mean that you've kind of like touched on that with asking me why I didn't want to do music. Like, why do you love writing so much?
I think because my dad wanted to be a writer. My dad likes writing. An apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And in some ways it's, filling out the dreams of the father. Like my dad didn't make it or get it to happen. I could get that. I could figure it out. And so I think that's one of the reasons. I think another reason is that's just a direction that I was sort of told that I had some talent. Mm-hmm. And so, I listened to that, thought, oh, okay, I have some talent, I'll do that. Another part of the reason is just trying to not only understand life, but also stand life. Just to stand everything that comes. Just to make sense of it. And so for me, it was also a lot of writing was just sort of like trying to learn and learning by creating art and seeing what comes out and just exploring what is it, my own consciousness, and who am I, what is it that wants to be said, as opposed to what needs to be said or what do other people want to have said, and trying to think about what does the audience want. Mm-hmm. But really trying to write from a place of what is it in me that wants to be said, and if I quit trying to make it and just allow it to occur, seeing what emerges. So I think that's a really nice part of writing for me, for creativity. There's also at a time, there's ambition in there about, it'd be awesome to write something that became popular and make money. Mm-hmm. But, there's a lot of musicians and a few rock stars. Yeah. So it's hard to make money, I think. I didn't really write commercially, I just wrote, I wasn't trying to figure out what the market wanted, I just wrote what I wanted, and I wasn't even sure. Just let it happen and saw what came out. So finding your own voice and saying what wants to be said and taking the risk to just stand up and be oneself, and to hell with what people think, and believing that if this is something that I like, there's other people out there who would be like me and who'd like it too. I don't think any of them have found me.
I think
maybe a few, but
that kind of reminds me of your video. Like, I know that you have a personality where you don't care about what other people think, because after all, I've seen that you put a YouTube video up of how to clean up dog poop.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah,
though.
Just make a joke or.
Mm-hmm.
But I do care what people think, but I have to choose to not give that energy and to choose otherwise, mm-hmm. instead of like letting my thoughts about what other people want define me. Let the insecurity of, wow, people might judge me or think negatively, or who knows what kind of thoughts they'll have, and I'll still do this because I think it's interesting or funny, or mm-hmm. So it takes courage to grow up and be who you are.
Any luck finding an editor?
E.E. Cummings said that. No, I don't. I've never found an editor. If you know one, let me know. But they're usually $8 a page, $8 to $20 a page. So if it's $10 a page, and a page is 250 words, and you've got 400 pages, that's $4,000 for one book, and you got 40
goodness.
books, that's 160,000. So I'd be looking about $200,000 at $10 a page.
Yeah, I've seen that you've written a lot of
$200,000.
books. I had no idea. Speaking on your books, which one of your books would you suggest to somebody who's still trying to find their balance or calling in life?
Sure. Body, Mind, Spirit.
Okay.
I know there probably should be a little bit more to that. But Body, Mind, Spirit's a good book. It's a coming-of-age story. It's about a troubled teen who goes and lives with a tough love uncle who teaches him how to be an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So here are some of the lessons that, coming-of-age story, some of the lessons you should learn about, taking care of your body, taking care of your mind, taking care of your spirit. And life is something that requires effort. If you sit on the TV, if you sit on the couch and just watch TV and eat Fritos and drink Coke because it tastes good, you're going to be miserable and you're going to die. Mm-hmm. Right? You have to eat well. You have to put the right food in. You have to consciously choose. I'm going to eat this good food, and it takes effort. You got to go shopping and get the right food. You got to cook it because restaurants aren't going to sell it to you as nutritiously as you could make it at home, and then you got to do the dishes. That takes effort, but you eat well, you're putting good fuel in, then you're going to have the energy to do other stuff. You got to exercise every week. Up this morning at 5:30, swim for 40 minutes. Okay, ready for my day. Try to do that 3 times a week. So you got to take care of your body with exercise and appropriate nutrition. You got to take care of your mind. How do you take care of your mind? Well, one way is you need to exercise that too. You need to do something to keep your mind active. And the other way, one of the most important ways, is you have to be a guardian for your own thoughts. Mm-hmm. And this is an important role that awareness, consciousness plays, because we are aware of our awareness. We are aware of our own thoughts. We could have thoughts, and we do this all the time, and we could choose not to act on those thoughts, mm-hmm. right? So we might be like, well, that bitch, and feel all catty and be like, I should go over there and smack her, but we don't. Right?
Yeah.
We exercise self-control. And people who don't exercise self-control, they get in fights, they get stabbed, shot, or they end up in jail. They haven't learned to not act on some of their impulses, their thoughts. Well, we all need to extend that beyond just the egregious thoughts, which are like, I feel anger, so I'm going to go hit the person, as if you were a 2-year-old, mm-hmm. and you haven't learned that self-control yet. We have to extend beyond that to even thoughts like, we could think negative thoughts. Oh, woe is me. I hate my life. I'm never going to succeed, right? Self-pity thoughts. And we can listen to those thoughts, or we could choose not to act on those thoughts. So just like we could choose not to act on the thoughts, and we could choose not to listen to the thoughts of, I'm going to go smack that person who's frustrating, and we could choose to not act on and choose to not listen to the thoughts of, self-pity, and depressive thinking and defeatist thinking. And this is one of the greatest challenges of life for all of us, is to cultivate that awareness and that ability to make choices about what we allow into our system, both food and also thoughts. Mm-hmm. And to choose like, oh yeah, okay, there's a thought that, gosh, this is a hard battle and I might not make it. Is it true? Henry Ford said, if you think you can or think you can't, you're right.
Interesting.
Right? So is it true? Right? Oh, woe is me. This is hard. I'm not going to make it. You believe in it, you're that much more likely not to make it.
Law of attraction.
But if you say, hey, that's just a thought, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and I'm going to put my everything into it, and who the hell cares where I end up? I'm enjoying this moment, and I'm going to just pour myself into it. Right? My studies, pour myself into it. I like it. I like programming, Or is that going to lead to anywhere? I don't know. It looks like it's led to somewhere for a lot of people. Statistics say it's the most highly demanded job. Maybe me, it'll lead nowhere. But I'm just going to keep doing it and pour myself into it. And so another really great quote that I heard was, ours is in the trying, the rest is none of our business. And so often we get focused on the outcome. We forget all about the process. And so, life is really that thing about cultivating a good body, cultivating a good mind, and then cultivating a good spirit. And so cultivating a good spirit is also like cultivating right thoughts, but cultivating the right spirit is just the entire thing of kindness, compassion. Doesn't mean Christianity, doesn't mean Islam, Muslim, Buddhism, whatever. That's nothing. Religion is so far from spirituality often. Religion has nothing to do with it. And cultivating the right spirit is just being kind to yourself, to others, being patient, cherishing life, cultivating those things. So to me, those are some of the secrets of life. And, Body, Mind, Spirit kind of covers some of that. It's a good book. Another, it's a little rough on the edges, as all my writing is because it's not edited. But
makes it more raw though to the reader.
It's totally raw. I'm like the garage band of writing.
Most people prefer that, honestly. They prefer the underground. So
tell them to frickin' start buying my book so I could move.
I'm interested in buying books, honestly.
Yeah, try Body, Mind, Spirit. I'll think about that and see what other books maybe would be cool for you. But I think you might enjoy Body, Mind, Spirit. What's up? What's next?
Where do you come up with these characters? Are they like characters that come up from your mind? Are they imaginative, or are they based on somebody you know?
So I do nothing more or less than what all of us do all the time, which is just make shit up in our heads.
All right, so you just put a character.
We're all always telling ourselves stories. We're all always making up characters. You're looking at me right now, and you're making up a character. You're like, this is Todd, and this is the way he is, and you have some accuracy on that, but nobody can never know anybody fully, not even yourself. You can't even know yourself fully, right? And so we're all always speculating or making up characters when we see people. And so, I don't know, like I would just take whatever was present in me. So like writing, I had a really hard childhood, and I had a lot of grief in me, and there's a lot of loss, like I went through something where I pretty much lost my entire family when I was a kid. And so a lot of my books were just exploring that loss, and I just take characters and I just push them all the way to the edge. And so, okay, this is a guy who lost his entire family, and how did he go about living and rebuilding his life? So I'm telling that story, and the characters he met, and looking for love, and the difficulties, challenges he faced, and telling that story, helping figure out my own story. But there's some fiction in all. There's some fact in all fiction, and some fiction in all fact.
So how was your childhood, since you were saying that it wasn't the best? Can you elaborate?
Yeah, my dad was raised really hard, and his mom died from cancer when he was young, and so he grew up on a homesteaded farm, and they were farmers, country life in northern Canada, north of Winnipeg. No running water, no electricity, no indoor plumbing, no gas. They burned wood to heat up the house and to heat their dinner. They melt snow for water. They would hunt for food and farm. They would fist fight, cuss, whore, drink in the house, him and all of his brothers, And so it was just a really sort of tough upbringing. And then my dad raised me tough. He raised me in that way, because he was never really given that love. So how could he ever give something he hadn't received? He's learned it through his life because he's smart and aware. But when I was young, he was young, and so me and my dad kind of grew up together. And so that was part of it. And then there's just, my parents went bankrupt when I was like 9 or 10, and there's just so much stress in the family, and people were suing my parents. And my dad thought he was dying of cancer, no surprise, because that's what happened to his mom, but he was under so much stress. He thought he was dying of cancer. My mom was on the verge of tears for 3 years. The stress in the relationship, there was some infidelities, and so that just compacted it. And so my entire family home system just completely imploded. My dad had problems with anger and rage, and there was times I was ducking things that were being thrown, and so it was a really sort of unstable, chaotic household where there was a lot of love, but there was a lot of anger, and And so that basis, I just didn't get a solid, stable basis, and I was kind of spinning, reeling from that for most of my life, trying to come to terms with it. Just not trusting people, and having to learn to open my heart and let people back in, and not always be guarded. I default. My psyche defaults to guilty until proven innocent when I meet people, as opposed to my psyche defaulting to giving somebody the benefit of the doubt. Right?
Are you still having issues with that, or is it turned around?
Sure, no, totally. A lot of things have turned around, and a lot to do with just writing and therapy. Done like a decade of therapy with a therapist, and also the woman I'm with now, my wife. She's a very kind, solid, stable, and so when I freak out a little or get, I could just talk to her and she's just reassuring for me. But I grew up in a chaotic, unstable love and anger household, and then I found that in my first marriage with my first wife, and it was a lot of just lacked kindness and appreciation.
From both sides, or your side, or?
I've struggled with anger in my life. I've gotten a handle on it. It's never physically abusive, but just not knowing how to love, and being guarded towards people. But it doesn't help when you're with somebody who's also came from a broken, screwed up background and has that. You just, you're always, there isn't the safety to trust to heal.
So
we're wounded in relationship and we heal in relationship. So me and my ex-wife, we split up. It wasn't working out after being together about 12 years, a third of our lives, and we split up.
And do you think it wasn't until after your guys' marriage, didn't succeed, that you learned how to open up, or what is it that actually sparked you into not making the same mistakes with your current marriage?
I had to learn to not believe my own thoughts. I had to learn to do the exact opposite of what my instinct told me to do. My instincts told me to run. If my instincts told me that this is somebody that I'd be attracted to, that meant she was not a good choice for me. Because she would be the wrong personality type. She'd be angry, abusive. I was hardwired to find that.
So how did you fall for your wife? What was it that...
I didn't love her at first. She wanted to be with me, and I could see that she was the right choice. But instinctually, I didn't feel the spark because there wasn't that hotness. Right? It wasn't exciting or whatever. It's just very calm and stable, and even to be with people and open up and trust again. Part of me just was like, I was totally intimacy averse. I don't ever want to be in a relationship again. Screw that. That was horrible. I've just been wounded in a relationship my whole life. But then, she's like, you can trust me.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to cry a little bit.
You make me want to cry right now, but I'm trying to keep my composure so that I can think.
And then she's like, you can trust me, and but my instincts told me no, run. But then I'm like, what am I gonna do? Live my life a sour, lonely old person? So all right, gamble again. Let's see, is somebody trustworthy? And my instincts, said no, but I had to go against that and choose, and let's see what happens.
So you forced your walls down, and then you continued to actually try to force yourself into, talking to her and letting her in?
Well, it's a fine line between forcing yourself, which I don't think works, and being willing to experiment and not listen to your own thoughts and try something different. And so it is a process. I can't break my walls down, but by being willing to not listen to my own thoughts and being willing to try something different, over time, my walls naturally come down because I see that this is an okay situation, or this person is trustworthy,
And how's your marriage now?
It's good.
It's good?
Yeah.
No regrets?
No regrets.
And so...
Couldn't be otherwise in some ways. We all live our conditioning.
Yeah.
You got to walk the road that's been laid out for you, and a large part of that road gets laid out for you based upon where you came from.
And how's your relationship with your son? How's your
Awesome.
son?
Yeah, I love my son, and he's one of the best teachers I've ever had. And that'll help you grow up. You have kids?
No, not yet.
That'll help
So,
you grow up. If you're not ready for it enough, it'll totally throw your life into chaos, and you'll tailspin, and it'll be horrible for you and your kids. But if you're in a place where you've got enough maturity and also enough sort of life stability, finances and job, and it'll be something that helps you move into like the next phase of life and grow and relinquish self even more. Like be there for somebody else and give up what you want, so that you can provide the right thing for somebody else and spend time with them.
So how does the relationship you have with your father affect your relationship with your son?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I don't always have the right instincts. One of my instincts is to work all the time, partly to not have to be with people, and partly because I have the belief, erroneous, that security comes from accomplishment, achievement, money. But so I have to go against my instinct to work all the time. And that comes from sort of my relationship with my parents and where I come from, and choose to spend time with my son.
Do you ever find yourself wanting to be hard on your son like your father was, or?
Sure. Not really, not yet. But I do sometimes, like, my parents are somewhat disconnected a little bit. Not always, they call it attunement in psychology. And so attunement is being able to attune with somebody, and you can feel it. Like I just attuned with you a little bit more. I like looked at you a little bit more. And I made sure instead of me just talking at you, I'm talking with you. So it's a very subtle thing, but my parents lack some of that attunement, which my wife really does well. And so sometimes, like he'll be, and I'll just keep washing the dishes, and Jess will be like, Todd, Oliver's asking for a glass of water. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, right. And I'm like, oh shoot, he's been calling out for 20 seconds, and I was just washing the dishes, not attuned.
Yeah.
Because that's something I got, right? You see it in yourself. Everybody does, right? Oh my God, I'm just like my parents.
Oh my gosh, yes. At times it can be good, but it has its pros and cons, definitely. So.
Yeah, you get the good, you get the bad. Nobody's perfect.
So, what drove you to go to college?
I didn't know what else to do.
So you just went?
Yeah, that's just pretty much that's one of the good things in my family is it was just, that's what you go to college now.
And how come you went to 3 versus just 1?
Started out at UCLA, and I had a hard time at UCLA just because I was in a tailspin, and I hadn't been socialized well, and so I didn't have that stability or that grounding or that calmness, and I didn't know myself, as a lot of young people don't, still trying to figure out who I am and what I want to do, so I wasn't clued in on that. And I was like the bad roommate. All of my roommates, without an exception, said, you need to move out. So I got kicked out from all my roommates. And so not being able to succeed socially, really had a hard impact on me. And after 2 years at UCLA, I got rejected from the film program. It's a junior year admitted program. I didn't get into the film program. So I said, all right, screw LA. And I had a family friend who's kind of like a brother who was going to UC Santa Cruz. So I transferred to UC Santa Cruz. Didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, so I studied economics because that would be the quickest route out. And I thought, business will be fine. I wish I'd studied comp sci or got a more practical skill with it. Here's your career, make it a devotion, become good at it. So I graduated from there, and then after a couple of years working in restaurants with a bachelor's degree, I decided to go back and get my MBA. So I moved back home just because of rent costs, and went to Fresno State and got my MBA, and then was dating Melissa, and our relationship was tumultuous from the start. I gave her an engagement ring, and then we went to San Francisco to, I think, buy her wedding ring, and we fought for like 2 hours in the car, and she stopped.
Oh,
She
God.
stopped and threw her engagement ring into the San Francisco Bay. I should have walked away right then, but because it's what's familiar, and the psyche likes to find what is familiar, even if it's shit, we just go to whatever we were raised with, and I hung in there for 12 years. You know, like I don't know why. Just I had to learn those lessons. It was my path. You know,
That kind of makes me want to interview your wife or get to know her, because
You
I mean,
can't.
you think about it, I'm like, she basically,
Which, my current wife or my ex?
your current wife.
Oh yeah.
I mean, because if you think about it, what does that motivate her to stick around and to sit there and actually like prove to you what she was worthy of? You know what I mean? Like, what was going on in her psyche?
Oh, that proved to what? Proved
Because I
to
mean,
me that I'm worthy, or
no, that
why
she
would
was worthy
why
of
would
your,
she-
of your trust.
Why
for
would she
her.
choose me?
Basically, I mean, you were
I
kind of
don't know.
pushy and like, you
Oh,
know what I mean?
I was totally
Kinda
like,
nice.
yeah, I kept shutting the door. Well, I think that has to do with her past, because her past is one where all of the men, her mom, the father figures in her life with her mom, all the men left, and I was a man who would leave. So she found a man who would leave. And, but, you know, maybe we're both old enough and wise enough that we could avoid stepping in that.
She found a man that would leave.
Right, who's not committed, who doesn't love her fully, who isn't 100% into her, and that's all of her father figures who are with her mom. Her dad left when she was 4 or young, and then her mom had a boyfriend for 10 years, but he left, and then her mom just had other boyfriends. Right, never had a guy who's fully committed. I love you, I'm with you, we're together. Which is a hard thing to do. 50% of marriages don't work out.
Sadly. But
Well,
I mean, it seems like you.
humans have a hard time getting along, so it's not like I'm speaking to, oh, look at this one case of Todd. No, that's humans. 50% of marriages. These are people who gave vows in front of other people and
I
said
know,
we
that's
love
what I'm
you.
saying. It's
and they
sad
don't work.
because why?
It-
Like, it sucks. It's kind of discouraging, but you know. But I mean, seeing your experience, you seem like you're comfortable, and you seem like you're gonna want to stay for
You know, I had the feeling last night, like, oh, we'll make it. You know, but if we don't, that's all right. But I hope we do.
You're so you're so like I don't know what the word is, not lenient, but so
Quantumous.
I guess you
We all
just,
eventually
like,
take a bullet.
you come and go. It's life. You've like, it reminds me of your of what you said. You've come to terms with the different aspects of life.
Yeah, I think somewhat, but not totally.
Still working on it,
I'm
of
more
course. I don't think we'll
I'm-
ever will be able to.
Yeah, sure. I'm more at peace with loss. That's what it's really all about. You know, more at peace with loss. But I'm not so much at peace that I'm able to step off the edge and just die.
Yeah. Well, Santa Cruz sounds like a lot of fun
It's nice.
to live over there. So how did you become a teacher? I mean, with all of your knowledge, you know that, like, why didn't you do philosophy or maybe journalism with your writing skills? Like, why computers?
I don't know. My dad was a teacher. I like summers off. I like working with students. Our interests are aligned as opposed to working in private industry where a lot of that situation is I gain at your loss, or I'm going to hoodwink you or mislead you. New and improved packaging, but it's 2 ounces less than the old packaging, which increases my profit margin this much, or whatever. Mm-hmm. So computers are fun. I like creativity. I got my MBA and I didn't like private industry, and a 1-year position came up at City College and I got it, and it turned into a full-time position, and then my marriage fell apart, and then I wrote a bunch of books, and holy crap, I'm 43.
So, I mean, computers wasn't really your first intentions. It was just kind of like, oh, let's see where the road takes me.
Yeah, it just kind of folded. It'd be nice to be the master of one's destiny, but that wasn't how it worked out for me.
So can you tell me
But
about...
maybe it is. Maybe it is working out, because I feel like I figured a lot of stuff out that most people don't figure out in their entire life.
You seem content
Just
with your
about
life.
and perspective. And I think that's some important stuff to figure out.
So can you tell me about, like, the moment, like, when you first realized that you were your own worst enemy?
Oh, that's a great one. I love that. You got that from the website?
Got that from researching on you, but this is something that I've realized upon myself, that I'm basically my own worst enemy too.
Yeah.
I'm seeing how, because you also say you have a quote where you're saying if you're at war with your mind, then you'll always be at war. And I was going through a rough time, like probably the beginning of this year, where I've dealt with a lot of I couldn't control my thoughts. My thoughts were going crazy, so I know exactly that feeling. And I realized that I am my worst enemy because I bring myself down. I'm the reason why I can't feel confident when I'm stepping into a new opportunity or something, so.
Yeah. I don't know, first moment where I realized I am my worst enemy, but I think that became really clear to me just with the writing and this entire thing of revealing that when we go, I don't know, just somewhere in the writing, I was like, I just really like that thing where you go in search of something, like, what is it? And then you find out, holy shit, it was me. Fuck, it was me. Like, just that humbling moment of, and so, there's this great movie with Mickey Rourke called Angel Heart, where he gets hired by Robert De Niro, Lou, he goes by Lou, Lewis, he goes by Lewis, his last name is Cypher, gets hired by Robert De Niro to go find this killer. And so Mickey Rourke's a detective in Louisiana looking for the killer, and then he learns through his investigation, he's the killer. He's the killer.
How? He wouldn't remember that he killed somebody?
No, but what happens is when it all comes together, Robert De Niro is Louis Cypher, Lucifer, and Mickey Rourke sold his soul to the devil for another 10 years of life to live 10 more years, and now the devil's come back to collect. And Mickey Rourke's like, oh my God, I'm the one who did it. And the devil's like, you're the one who did it. You sold your soul to me. And Mickey Rourke goes, I'm going to burn in hell for this, aren't I? And the devil's like, for a long time.
Oh my gosh, how scary.
Just realizing.
Yeah, just real. Yeah.
So I wrote another story, which is a really cool story, called Once and Then Again, about reincarnation. And so same sort of a premise as that, where this guy's going to a therapist, and the therapist is also kind of like a friend, but he has an investigation, and anyhow, by and by, what gets discovered is the therapist is the devil, and the guy realizes that in his former life, he was Hitler.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and now that, and why has he been having all this suffering?
Yeah.
Because he's paying his karma for having been Hitler in a former life, And he lost everybody he loved. Why did he lose everybody he loved? Because he made so many people lose all the ones they loved, and so he has to experience that, know what that's like. You got to experience what you did to others. You got to experience that and feel it.
That makes me wonder how my past life was exactly about because I do believe in reincarnation. Yeah,
who the hell knows?
I have thoughts about reincarnation too, and I'm just wondering, how that comes into play. I don't know. It's really interesting.
So I don't know where I realized that I'm my worst enemy, but it's also true that I'm my best friend.
Yeah. So, how did you, because that was actually the second part of the question, how did you end up nurturing yourself to become your best friend instead of, basically changing that relationship?
Hating the hate is just more hate. Hating the hate is just more hate.
So you just go
being critical of that, being critical of your critical side is just more criticism.
So you just learn to love yourself?
You gotta love the hate. You gotta love the hate. You have to accept the rejection. Rejecting the rejection is just more rejection.
So what were your first steps? Where did you start? Realizing that, you were your worst enemy, and then you're just like, okay, well, obviously what I had been doing before didn't work out, so...
there's a way to do it, and then there's what's done. And what's done, what you do, is is you just have to, that thing about choosing the mindset, and love starts with me. And there's somebody there, I could hate them, and there might be reasons for it to be guarded and hateful towards them, or I could try to find what's good about them and see what's good in them. And same with myself. Mm-hmm. I could hate myself, or I could try to find what's good in me and appreciate myself. I could look in the mirror and think, oh man, this wrong, that wrong. Or I could think, or I could be like, I'm a good person. You know, maybe I'm not, you know, somebody's ideal of beauty or whatever I'm being critical about. I'm a good person. I'm nice to people. You know, be nice to myself. You know, it's letting go of one's confidence and certainty that you know how the world is, and being soft. You know, like, I'm okay. Instead of like, this is the way it is. They're assholes. Let's go get them, right? No. Well, you know, we're all assholes, aren't we? In one way or another.
Pretty much.
You know, like Solzhenitsyn, who's this Russian poet, says, the line dividing good and evil runs through the heart of all men and women. And who amongst us is willing to cut out a piece of our own heart? If only it were so easy to round up the evildoers and separate them and put them over here and get rid of them. We're all the evildoers. Yeah. And so you have to love the hate. And that doesn't mean cultivate the hate, but if you hate the hate, that's more hate. So, right? Like, I'm going to hate the hate in me. I'm going to reject that which rejects myself. No, that's more rejection. You have to, that part of you that rejects you doesn't need to be rejected. It became rejecting because it got too much rejection. That part that rejects within you, rejects others, rejects yourself, became rejecting because it was taught that through rejection. If you give it more rejection, that's what it knows, and that just fuels it, right? What you have to give it is like, oh, and picture it maybe as a young child. Oh, wow, I see you're rejecting everybody. You know? It must be really hard to reject everybody. I'm not going to reject you. You could be here. You just let it be there. And so that's what's done. And the way you do it is, one of the best things I've ever done is there's this meditation center where they teach you this technique of, and you practice it, of seeing thoughts and not acting on them, not believing them. And it's the North Fork Vipassana, Vipassana. But if you just type Google North Fork Meditation, you'll find the center. And it starts with a 10-day retreat. You have to do 10 days. And they'll teach you how to cultivate a good mind.
And I remember you telling us about that. Because I remember you had us do exercises before each class.
Yeah.
So how long were you doing that?
10 days.
So it was only 10 days?
Yeah, it's a 10-day retreat. But then for like from 2007 to basically when my son was born in 2013, I meditated every day for an hour at least. And there would be some times where I practiced more. If I missed a day, I'd make it up. Mm-hmm. But
how do you think meditating has helped you?
So scientifically, it's proven to have really good, positive, beneficial effects on the mind. And they do biopsies, autopsies on meditators and compare their brains to people who aren't meditators. And you have more dendrites in your prefrontal cortex, which is where you regulate emotion and mood and where personality is formed. And so meditation really kind of gives you a bigger brain for doing higher level functioning and for also handling emotional states. And so that's all scientifically proven. And what was your question?
How long you were meditating? Like how that's helped you?
Oh, how does that help you? So it helps all of us, and scientifically proven. And how it's helped me is, I think it's just helped me to stop and be quiet and learn that awareness and learn that, I don't have to believe that thought. There's that bumper sticker, don't believe everything you think, you know? So I think it's helped me sort of just learn that practice of cultivating a good mind. Like, cultivate that which is skillful, and don't cultivate that, don't feed that which is unskillful. Don't go around gangbanging hate, whack those bitches, get my drugs, fuck all you motherfuckers. No, let's not cultivate that, But instead, can you cultivate, the positive, whatever that looks like, the skillful thoughts? Cultivate that and skillful. Hate is easy. Hate is easy. It's easy to be hateful. Just like it's easy to sit on the couch and eat Fritos and watch TV and drink Coke. But it's going to leave you fat and sour and unhealthy and unhappy. And so you got to put the effort into it and choose.
A lot of
I'm not going to hate, man. I'll love you. Love starts with me. Love starts with me. I'll love you, baby.
Okay.
That's the hardest thing, to love your enemies.
It is. It is. I know love takes more effort than hating does.
To love oneself.
Honestly, I feel like hating takes a lot of effort for me too.
Dude,
because I feel guilty.
effort.
I feel guilty for hating somebody, or I feel, like a bad person.
Well, don't hate the hate, though. That's the trick.
That's
You gotta
I
be
don't.
like, wow, you're really hateful. Like, just picture it as a little kid who's like, that energy within you. Picture it as a little 2-year-old who's just been really angry. Oh, you're really angry, aren't you? I'm sorry you're so angry. Because then you kind of like, okay, that hateful energy's in me, but you've actually separated it a little bit, and it's like, okay, it's not personal. It's just an energy in me, and I could be like, oh, you're really hateful. I'm so sorry.
So are you speaking to yourself, or are you just saying?
Yeah. You're speaking to that energy within you. We all speak to ourselves all the time.
Yeah, just kind of trying to calm it down, right?
Yeah, or just to recognize it and allow it to be there, and you aren't trying to hate it. And it's like, well, you want to tell me why you're so angry? And if you ask those parts of yourself, you'll hear them talk, and you'll actually calm down.
It can be hard when you're at work, and people.
Well, but when you do it, though, oh, you're angry because the secretary's a bitch? Because she's out to get you? I totally hear that. That must be really hard for her if she's always a bitch like that, huh? And going through the world just being bitchy to everybody? Wow, how awful must her life be, Like, she probably doesn't have a good relationship. She's just an angry person. I feel kind of sorry for her. Do you feel some of that? Do you feel any compassion for her that it seems like she's just angry at everybody and likes to fight people? Imagine where she came from. Where do you think she learned that? And then you start asking those questions, and you're like, okay, well, maybe it's not me, and I have some compassion for that. And you see the bigger picture. It's more complex than they are the terrorists.
Oh, no, I understand that.
Well, they're pissed off because we've been bombing the shit out of them and killing their families. So, killing their families. Yeah, they're a little pissed.
Yeah, they're a little pissed.
But it's more complex than they are the enemy.
So, I know you traveled in your life, right?
Yeah.
Where have you gone? Tell me your experiences.
That's a good question.
You've traveled that much?
So I've been fortunate in that way because my parents are also, my dad's a professor at Fresno State, my mom's a realtor, so they earned good money, and we were able to have nice vacations. And I don't know, the first story that comes to mind was how miserable I was when I was 18. I graduated from high school, and then I went to Europe for 4 months just to backpack around and ride the trains, and you could stay in hostels for like $8 a night, and just eat cheap and see stuff, and I was so miserable. And I remember one night I was staying in a hostel, which was this big castle, and I was in the castle pretty much by myself.
And what is a hostel?
It's just a hotel for the youth.
Okay.
They call it a hostel. So they have hostels all over, HOSTEL. And I was in this big hall in this castle, right? And I was just crying. I was totally depressed, and depressed for most of my life. And then some guy walked in, and the hall was so big, he had to walk, down this whole hall to come over to me because I was sitting pretty much in a chair in the middle of it. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm okay." But I was just a really depressed person and really anxious for most of my life. And just to look back on it and see like how depressed and anxious I was, when I was young, like I was a really beat up kid, man. I was like a dog that got beat too much.
And you were just crying because nothing triggered it. It was just kind of like, I just feel like crying right now, and I don't know why I'm sad.
Yeah, just like my life is hopeless. I lost everybody I love. My family got destroyed. and I was just filled with, depression is anger turned inward. I've heard, whatever that means. I don't know if that's true, but I think I had a lot of anger towards my parents for not raising me well, but I didn't really see it as them being the problem, so I made it about me somehow. Like, I took that anger I should have towards them. Damn you guys, why didn't you raise me better? And I somehow just took that, and I just got depressed. Like, that anger turned towards me, and so I was just so forlorn and depressed for most of my life.
Because you felt like you were on your own, right? Like, did you feel
on
lost?
My own, lost. Nobody loved me, by myself. I'm not good enough. Hopelessness. So for most of my life, I was depressed and anxious. Most of my life.
So are there any good traveling stories I
think that is a good story.
I mean, that is a good story, but...
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but that's a whole life journey. Yeah. And it's a hard journey. And, I feel like I'm finding my way out.
You still feel like you're finding your way out?
No, I feel like I am finding my way out. Like, I'm not totally free, but I'm so much more free than I used to be. And my wife and my son have a lot to do with that.
Do you think someone who's dealt with depression their whole life will ever be able to be free?
Yes.
I mean, before death, in life now.
Yes. And the course of action that I would recommend to that person, including you, if that's your case, is to go to that meditation center, because that's I've done a lot of seeking in my life, trying to find a solution, therapy, workshops, different workshops, about loving yourself, and Gestalt therapy, group workshops, psychodrama, books, writing, trying to catharsis through art. Spirituality, different spiritual systems, Buddhism, meditating. The best thing I've found ever, the most effective, truest, cleanest path to dealing with inner psychological turmoil and finding a happier life is doing that 10-day meditation retreat. And it's only 10 days. That might seem like a lot to just, I'm going to sit for 10 days with my eyes shut. Are you kidding me? Because that sounds like, what? I meditate for 10 days? Because you pretty much meditate 10 days straight, except for an hour of instruction every day. But because of that, and what they teach you is that when you get the technique, by doing that intensive 10 days of nothing but meditation, you see all of your mind in its worst depravity, right? Because it's just quiet. There's nothing else there, and you're able to be with that and have that be okay. So you're loving that which is the worst, or accepting and allowing that which is the worst, and not acting on it.
I mean, I've been better, me personally, but I mean, when I hear you speak, I feel like you're still saying that, you still sometimes feel depressed.
Sure.
Do you?
Sure. Sometimes I have the unskillful thoughts come up, like, oh man, I'm stuck in Fresno, dirty air, I can't move. Maybe, just keep getting there and throw
I think that's probably
punches and see how
everybody
it
then.
goes.
That's probably everybody, because.
But there's times within the last 2 months where I've been like, I should just kill myself.
Well, why?
That's depression.
Yeah,
That's the ultimate act of hopelessness, and I've felt that my whole life, and I'm too damn stubborn. And I also have hope in me. So enough sort of stubbornness and willfulness that I'm not going to go out that route. I'm not going to choose that. But I've certainly felt the impulse within myself at times, like that much loathing or anger towards myself, that thought comes up, but then I don't choose that.
So, so you don't ever think that you'll be able to be free from it?
No, that's not true. I think I'm doing great.
So on the verge, you're probably on the verge of letting go of all that? Or?
I've let go a lot. I don't know what the future will be like. Maybe I'll come back and have a down moment. I mean, there's gonna be life is full of cycles. So yeah, there's gonna be more sadness and grief and loss, but I feel more emotionally ready to handle that and be okay with it.
Can you tell me about 2 events in your life that you wish you can do over?
A good travel story first, and then I'll tell you 2 I wish I could do over.
Go for it.
A good travel story. There's, first one that came to mind was traveled to Bali with a friend, Mike, and just being in Bali and surf in the morning, and then we go sometimes for lunch to this Thai restaurant, which is no walls, open air, beautiful Bali, eat lunch, take a nap on the cushions at the restaurant, and go out and surf in the evening. Just like a totally chill life. It was awesome. There you go, good travel story. What was the next question?
Well, real quick, where else have you been? So far you've been to Europe, you've been to Bali.
Yeah.
Where else have you gone?
China, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Malaysia, Bali, Barbados, Mexico, Canada, and then Western Europe.
You're just missing Australia now.
Yeah, I've been to Australia, haven't been to New Zealand. That's all right. It's not the place so much as the perspective.
Was it for leisure
Hawaii.
or for business?
All leisure.
All leisure?
All leisure.
Where do you find the finances for that? For being a teacher?
Get your master's degree. I get paid $100,000 a year.
Oh, you get paid as much as a good doctor.
No, good doctors get paid $500,000 a year.
Okay.
I have a friend who makes $400,000 a year. He's a orthopedic surgeon. And so go to school, get your master's degree, and pay range at a community college faculty instructor is $60,000 to $120,000. So I've been there 14 years, so I'm at 100.
So it's because you have a master's degree too, or?
You have to have your master's degree to teach at the community college. Get your master's degree in computer science because that's highly demanded, right? And there's a lot of jobs in that field. If you get your master's degree in history, you never hear people saying, I need a historian. Chicago Airport, dang it, we need a historian. What's wrong with this? These airplanes aren't lining up. No, Chicago Airport's been having computer problems. They need programmers. They're going to hire programmers. So if you get a history degree, well, you want to teach at the community college. The people applying to teach at the community college with history degrees have doctorates and they publish books, and they don't get the jobs because they're going up against tons of other history people with doctorates who've written books. You have a comp sci degree and master's and you apply to community college, great, come on board. We can't find any people with computer science degrees because they're all out working making hundreds of thousands of dollars. You want to make money, this is what I'm doing in my class now, go to Code Academy, and take the HTML, CSS, and then also the JavaScript trainings. And then once you've done that, go to Hack Reactor, HACK Reactor. Hack Reactor, they're in San Francisco. They have a 3-month training. They charge $20,000 for it. But when you graduate, they have a 99% job placement rate for all their graduates, meaning they place all of their graduates, and the average starting salary for their placements is $105,000. By August, you could be making $105,000 by August as a JavaScript programmer. And that's not hard. That's Code Academy, HTML, CSS, Code Academy, JavaScript, and then apply to Hack Reactor for their program and read a couple of JavaScript books between now and when it starts and do some JavaScript programming, do their 3-month programming. By August, you could be making $105,000.
But that'd be, that's after going to Code Academy and everything?
That's this year, after going to Code Academy and Hack Reactor. And it'll cost you $20,000. Big deal. Take out a loan. Get a credit card.
$20,000 for specifically just the JavaScript one, or for both schools before?
Code Academy is free. It's online. Hack Reactor is not. That's in the Bay Area, and it'll cost you $20,000. But if you make it through, which you just study and you do the work, 12 hours, 14 hours a day for 3 months, you're making $100,000 by August.
So it's Hackery Academy and then the Java.
Code Academy and then Hack Reactor.
Oh, so it's just those two.
That's it.
Oh, okay.
But at Code Academy, take the HTML, CSS training, and then also take the JavaScript training.
Mm-hmm.
And then at Hack Reactor, you go and you apply to it. You can come back and see me during office hours. Do the Code Academy, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I'll get you started with it office hours, Thursday, 1:30 to 3:30. And then once you finish that at Code Academy, we'll apply you to Hack Reactor. And if you get in, right, you'll go hustle up the money, and then by August you're making $100,000.
I've never been such a big fan of working with computers, like sitting at a computer all day. But I mean, I know that there is a big demand for it.
What else are you gonna do?
I don't really know. I was thinking about being the publicist,
To hell with that. That's
communications.
No money. No, that's no money. Come, try the Code Academy HTML CSS. It's easy. It's beautiful. I wish I was doing it when you're in my class, because I have all my classes doing it now.
Todd, I feel cheated now.
Well, it
cheated.
evolves. It changes, and you're learning about it, so you're not cheated.
No.
The opportunity's there.
Okay, I think I'm really.
Do it. Just go try it.
Money.
Just go try the Code Academy and see if you like the training. Start with HTML and CSS. I think you'll be like, this is not that hard.
And so you're willing to help me get started if I go to the office?
Totally.
Okay. All right, I'll go to the office.
Thursday, 1:30 to 3:30.
Okay, so
We'll get you going. It's awesome.
For sure. I just have like a few more questions.
Cool.
So how did you become so passionate with humanity, and like what made you become so infatuated with the idea of the true meaning of happiness?
Not having it. I don't know. Looking for happiness. That's what we're all looking for. Whether most of us going about it in really misguided ways, but I don't know. Infatuated with humanity. My dad is a sociologist, and so I think he's always sort of been one to sort of look at life and society and ask questions and understand it, and also marvel at it, and to be a mystic, just marveling at the mystery of life. And so I think the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Again, it's just so I got some really bad things from my parents. I got some really good things from my parents.
So how did you become so enriched with the desire to follow Buddhism and their beliefs? And do you go to a particular temple?
No other religions really resonated with me. Buddhism resonated with me. You could check out the books of Jack Kornfield with a K. He has two great books, A Path with Heart, and also The Wise Heart. And I read those books, and I listened to some of his talks. You could download his talks from dharmaseed.org for free. DHARMASEED, Dharma Seed. And Dharma is truth and also teachings of the Buddha. It's not about a religion. Buddhism is not a belief system. It's not a religion. It's just the philosophy of life. That's all the Buddha taught. He taught how do you live your life and not suffer, and to have happiness. That's all he taught. And so his teachings are like, well, hell, I want to know that. Like, I don't want to believe in some dude, this guy, and if I act the wrong way, he sends me down to this fiery place, and if I go martyr myself, I'll get 77 virgins in this place. Like, I don't need any of that fantasy, all right? Save that for the movie theater. Like, give me something I could use so I could live my life with more happiness and not be as miserable, be happier. Like, who wouldn't want to know more about that? So that's kind of like what drew me to Buddhism. Now, a lot of people have taken Buddhism and they have institutionalized it and turned it into rites and rituals, and some of this, do that, oh, praise be to the Buddha. But that's not what Buddhism's about. Buddhism and what the Buddha taught is really about how to live your life with less suffering, how to be happy. And, so the good teachings, the good Dharma is Dharma that really kind of speaks to that and doesn't get lost in a bunch of rigmarole about this or that or the Eightfold Path or whatever, right? It's just like, how do you live your life with more happiness? Make the right choices. And at the essence, it's this skill of being aware of your thoughts and choosing which ones you like, choose the skillful, and let go of the unskillful. Let go of them. Why are you holding on to them? Why do you want to hold on to like, ar, 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 ar? Yeah, let that go. So what? Maybe we're all going to die tomorrow. Well, okay, we'll make today good if you're gone tomorrow. You know?
Yeah.
Right? Just let go of that. Okay, well, maybe we die tomorrow, but all right, let's make today good. Let's not cry about dying tomorrow. And often you need to cry about that to get through it. It's a saying you got to go through it to get through it, and the only way out of it is into it. And so there's a lot of grieving. Like, you know, for me, there's like a lot of grieving. But then I grieved it until the grieving was done, and now it's like, oh, okay, if I die tomorrow, I die tomorrow. Let's make today good.
And how did you become so outspoken with your life and all your learnings?
Outspoken?
Yeah. I mean, were you shy before? Did you, like, what made you want to share it with the whole world? So
Part of it is, again, just sort of like being shamed and kind of squished when I was a kid. There's almost an angry element that's like, I'm going to effing stand up and be myself, and I don't give a shit what anybody thinks. And to hell with all of you if you got a problem with it. You know, so there's like a chip on my shoulder quality to it almost from having been told I'm not okay when I was a kid and really kind of squished, that I had to really sort of allow myself to be who I am and just put myself out there and accept myself and you know, yeah, so I don't know, I think that's part of that, and that's part of the practice of the writing for me. It is a practice, consciously a practice of acceptance and presence. Mm-hmm. And so can I just accept, you know, not reject, but accept everything that wants to come out? Can I accept it, no matter how dark? You know, let me accept that and just see what happens and be present with it. And so a lot of loss. You know, let me accept the loss. Let me cry about it. Shoot, I'm still writing about loss. Let me cry about it. But then at a certain point, I had to set it down. Okay, I think I wrote 45 books. You know, and so, you know, it's like, well, I guess this phase of my life's come to an end. Let me put down the grieving. There's a story in Buddhism about a monk, a senior monk, who comes to a monastery out in the country to see how's this monastery going. And there's a new monk, a young monk, who is really crying. So he asked one of the other monks, he's like, why is this monk crying? And the other monk said, oh, he lost his girlfriend, his wife. His wife split up with him. And the senior monk said, oh. Senior monk went away, came back a year later, see how's this monastery out in the country doing, and he saw the young monk crying. He's like, this young monk is crying again. What happened? Well, he's crying because he lost his wife. And so the senior monk said, oh. And he walked over to the young monk and he said, you're still crying? And the young monk said, yeah, I'm still crying. And the senior monk slapped him. Psh! He said, he looked him in the eye, he said, snap out of it. And he walked away. So, you know, yeah, grieve it, but then don't wallow in it.
Yeah.
You know, at a certain point, it's like, oh, okay, I've grieved it. You know, you got to know it could become its own habit pattern of the mind. Mm-hmm. And then, okay, I faced it, I grieved it. Let me take the next step and see how I can live life now.
And who are some of your role models or people that have impacted you besides your father? Because obviously your father is a big role model.
Yeah. Obviously, parents, huge role model. But I've really great teachers in my life have been my son, my wife. Jack Cornfield is awesome. There's a guy, Adyashanti, Adyashanti. I've really appreciated his teachings. Mariah Fenton Gladys was really helpful to me. She has a really nice book, The Wounded Healer, and she also does workshops, and so I went to her workshops. They're like group therapy, Gestalt workshops, and those were really amazing. Esalen is a really neat place, Esalen. So that's been a place where, you know, been a lot of spiritual growth. Mm-hmm. Role models.
How has YouTube changed your life?
What?
How has YouTube changed your life?
Oh. It's kind of cool to watch videos and share videos and, you know, teaching, making videos to show students stuff, or... That's a cool question. Hasn't changed my life at all in some ways, because life is just life, no matter what new devices we have. there's still this experience of somehow we are conscious, we're aware. How is it that we're aware? You know, like, who is looking through these eyes? I'm aware of this hand, I'm aware of this hat, I'm aware of you, I'm aware of this recording device. And no matter what we're aware of, there's this force of life which animates me, which animates you, which is the same force of life. It's in you, it's in me. Whatever it is that makes us alive is in both of us. It's the same thing. And it allows us to be conscious of what's occurring. So whether it's a phone, a hat, a person, or a YouTube, life is just life. So it hasn't impacted life at all. It's just another thing life is aware of. And at the same time, it's, you know, it's just another form of TV, but with more programming, right?
Why do you use it?
Cool.
Why do you use it?
Oh, why do I make videos and stuff?
Yeah.
I like creativity. I really enjoy creating stuff. So, and I think there's that quality of being seen, which I didn't get enough of when I was a kid. You know, my parents being there for me. Like, kids go through that phase, watch me, hey, watch me. And I think that if you don't get your needs met psychologically, you go through the rest of your life like a little boat that didn't get filled up at the harbor where it should have been filled up, and you start going to all these different harbors. Will you fill me up? Will you fill me up? And so you get these unmet psychological needs which you're trying to have met. I'm trying to be seen. So if you can recognize within yourself, there's this unmet psychological need in me. If you can recognize the need, like I did with me, like I haven't been seen enough, right? Then you could, okay, well, let me do some stuff to be seen. Here, look at all my books. Here, look at all these videos of me. Here, look at me teaching in front of class. A lot of teachers have that quality of not having been seen enough, I've noticed, right? And there's also actually research or stuff that points to this. I've heard elsewhere, you know. And so then I fill up that need, and it's like, oh, I'm not as hungry for that anymore. You know, that psychological need's been met.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I guess my last question would be, what was the favorite book that you wrote?
Wrote or read?
Both.
So first one that I read that comes to mind, of course, the Jack Kornfield books are awesome. Path with Heart, Wise Heart. I highly recommend those. Some of the best books I've ever read in my life. But you know, I also really enjoyed West with the Night by Beryl Markham, which is this really cool book about a woman who was a pilot in the early 1900s when flying was really dangerous. Mm-hmm. And it's just her experiences of life and flying. So check out those 3 books. And then the best book I wrote, you know, or one of the ones I wrote that comes to mind, I like all my books. I like aspects of them. But I really like Lay Me Down just for the title and just for the blunt, unreserved way it faces death, and the character in there faces death. He's got a terminal illness, you know, so even the cover of it is like the barrel of a gun on the cover, as if it's pointing at you. So it's really about looking down the barrel of the gun and being willing to face loss and death and, you know, this temporary existence. Of all, the Buddha said, of all the animals, of all the footprints from animals, that of the elephant is greatest. Of all the teachings from different philosophies, that on impermanence is the greatest. So really sort of understanding that we're all on a sinking ship. And you want to sit here and quibble because somebody took your parking spot? You don't understand. That person's dead in the blink of an eye, and so are you. You know? Mm-hmm. It's like it's going to be over so quick, and maybe before you think you know it. My ex-wife, she got a tumor in her prefrontal cortex. She had to have brain surgery. She went into a coma, and she's in a coma. You know, she's in her 30s. That's it. Her life's over. That's my ex-wife. Her life's been lived. That's it. Done. You know? You probably know people. It seems like you grew up kind of, maybe you knew people who were in gangs or things like that. No?
Well, yeah, but
you know people who died?
People were close.
No, you don't know people who've died.
Well, yeah, I know people that have died. I've
There you
actually had
go.
2 deaths this year. So.
There you go, right? Yet we always think it's going to be at some point in the future. It could be today.
I don't know if there's something wrong with me. It's just when it comes to death, it doesn't really hit me like it hits other people.
Cool. You're at peace with it. No big deal.
Yeah, I am, but
That's great.
To other people it seems like I'm more incompassionate, which in all honesty, I'm just like they just moved on to their next life.
That's
like,
it, man. You only get so. Yeah, that's like
Yeah.
my dad was saying to me the other day. It's like, oh, that's so horrible. This person's in that situation. I'm like, well, we all take a bullet at some point. My dad's like, damn.
Yeah, pretty much. And I say something like that. That's pretty much how people react to me.
I go, well, it's also true. That's unfortunate, but we talk about it like we don't know it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
Like, okay, she got her bullet.
She
I'm
got her
gonna get
bullet
mine.
finally.
You're gonna get yours. That's the way it goes.
Yeah. That was my constant. But how old are you, Todd? I forgot to ask.
43.
43? Okay. And
Life
how long
goes
were you
quick.
working at Fresno City?
Since 2000, so 14 years.
14 years.
I was 29 when I started, which is still on the young spectrum.
It is, especially after all the education you got. Your CV was really long.
Yeah, well, I padded with a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You cut it down, it's a bachelor's and a master's degree, that's it.
So you filled it up just to make it look better?
Yeah. It's not only what you say, it's also how you say it.
Yeah, that's good. Well, off the record too, just like you have these quotes that kind of caught my attention, and this one of them said, "Do you want love or do you want control?" Like, what is the point that you're trying to get across? Like, what do you mean?
So Darth Vader said to Luke Skywalker, help me bring order to the universe. And so, I think, I'm not saying control is not love. But, like if love is also acceptance and allowing, right? Like, and there's a time where it's like absolutely appropriate, depending upon the relationship, to control. No, don't go in the street. Don't go in the street, like, or whatever when you're raising a kid, But I don't know what the hell I meant when I said that. But those are just some of my thoughts on control, right? Nobody wants to be controlled. And if you try to control somebody, they aren't going to stay around. Make you the way I want you. Do this, do that, right? Like, that's a hateful, unhealthy relationship if you're controlling somebody. God damn it, I want it like this. Why aren't the bed sheet corners tucked in? Why isn't my dinner ready? Why are you bringing so much goddamn luggage?
Oh, okay.
Or like, great, you got 3 suitcases, no problem, honey. Let me go get the other one.
What about? Do you know what you meant by? I didn't write down the full quote, but this part of the quote caught my attention. You asked, "Is it love or is it attachment?" How would you defer the two? Like.
Yeah, are you with somebody because? Well, psychologically, attachment is a word in psychology that means that you've formed a bond which is lasting. You have attachment. And attachment's a really positive thing from a psychological, as a psychology, using the word in a psychological way from the field of psychology. Attachment's a positive thing. But there, I think what I'm referring to is like I was attached. Attachment would be like, is it love or is it attachment?
Yeah, I mean, being someone who's in that position, how do you think, like, have you thought about if you're attached to your wife or you love her, or like, how would you defer that? How can you
attachment
really
and
tell?
love from a psychological standpoint go hand in hand. But from a dysfunctional standpoint, not looking at attachment from a psychological standpoint, like you could be attached to somebody because you're needy, right? Like, I need to feel like I'm okay. I need to have somebody loving me. This person loves me. I'm too afraid to be in the world by myself, right? Okay, good. I have this person and they fulfill all those needs, right? And that's not love. That's like you're with them because you don't want to be by yourself. You're afraid of being by yourself. you don't feel like you love yourself, they love you, or it seems they do, you know, or it could even be you're with them because you grew up in an angry environment and they provide that. I don't know, and that's not love.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
love is like, I'm good. I love myself. I don't need you to love me to prove I'm lovable. I could be by myself. I don't need you to be my friend, because if you're not my friend, I'll find other friends. And I think you're great, and I want to be with you. That's love. And all too often, like I even say that, I'm like, wow, do I have that? You know, like in the past, I didn't have love. I'm with you because of all these needs.
Okay, I see.
Bummer, huh?
No, yeah. Well,
If that's why you're in a relationship. But
well, yeah, bummer because of that idea, but
and we do need people, right? So we do need people. So we do get our needs met. People, we have whatever physical needs, and then we have needs for socialization. We're social creatures, and so we do get needs met in relationship. But
well, I mean, I was just interested in hearing your thoughts about that, since I mean it was your quote, anyways.
sure,
I mean,
yeah,
because I'm in a relationship right now, but I pretty much know that I'm in love with.
oh, cool,
That's how, it works. But of course, like on my other, I don't know. To me, I guess I'm in that position where I've kind of had that experience where you and your current wife, like she was there for you, try to get you to win your heart and your trust. That's basically how it went with me and my boyfriend, and I won his trust finally. He's finally starting to become more, open with his feelings with me.
cool.
Yeah, so it's good, but it's just because it's been like 4 years. So my mom, she's kind of like, oh, I don't see him ever changing or anything. So it kind of discourages me, But then I can see the change when I'm with him,
Yeah.
His own mother can see it too. But just being because I'm one of those kind of how you were with your father. You always needed his approval in some type of way.
Sure.
Like you always needed his guidance, and whatever he said, that must be the right way, or that he must be right. He's my father,
Yeah.
Like my mom, her saying that just kind of is really discouraging, and I fight with myself. My war in my mind is, should I, trust in my instincts? People can change. This can go well. I'm happy where I'm at. Like, I know things haven't been, a walk in the park, but, it's all been worth it for me. This is the risk that I'm enjoying the ride. Versus, am I scared to see what's going to come? My mom says, your future, think about your future with this guy. Or, because he's not in school, but he's trying to find a job right now.
Yeah.
Or he just didn't have his father figure, and that really messed him up. Like, I know him more than my mom does, but my mom sees it as from a mother's perspective and what she wants best for her daughter.
Sure.
So it's just kind of
Bring him Thursday, right? Does he work?
Does he work?
Thursday?
No.
Thursday, does he work?
Mm-mm.
Bring him Thursday, and I'll introduce you guys both to Code Academy. You could do it together, and when you get through the 2 trainings, if you like it, you can both go to Hack Reactor, and by August, you'll be making $200,000. And you guys will be driving like a brand new BMW 528i, and your mom will be like, okay, you're right.
How does this work? I mean, that's the only reason why I was so interested, too, in asking a lot of questions about that, because, I mean, my boyfriend did kind of have, like, the same type of wall that you have had towards your current wife, so that was interesting with me.
Well, play him this.
I will.
In the car.
Well, I'm not the part where you said it's okay if me and my wife don't work out.
Well, that's true. You'll be fine.
I know it's
He'll be
true,
fine.
but it's
You good?
You don't get scared of thinking that ever, like thinking like,
Find
dang, what
somebody
if it
else,
doesn't?
and maybe and there'll be good things about whoever else you find, and there'll be bad things.
Obviously, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, right? It's kind of.
You also make it be.
Exactly.
Relationships made moment to moment.
I think that's really true, though. Honestly, like
They're
you
meant
make
to-
it be,
Yeah,
because
you make it be.
I think a lot of people expect fate to bring them together no matter what, but honestly, you kind of have to meet fate half the way.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You gotta say, I want you.
Exactly. I'll bring him on Thursday then.
Yeah, bring him on Thursday if he has any interest in it. Will you send me a